Craig Button on TSN talking about a possibility of Detroit and Ottawa getting together in a deal for Alex DeBrincat, who's 25 years old. He's a Detroit area native. He wants a trade out of Ottawa. He's due a new contract, and he's probably going to get a big one with a long term, which is something that, by most accounts, has Yzerman a little bit uncomfortable. I shouldn't say most accounts. There is some reporting that Yzerman is uncomfortable with the term that a deal like this and getting an Alex DeBrincat might require. And then there's the what you got to give up. Ottawa and Detroit are in the same division. That makes some teams hesitate because they don't want to get burned. If you screw up, you have to have your mistake haunt you in the division for years. And so typically teams don't like to trade in sports in division. I know, Gator, you think that doesn't matter, or no, you don't think it should matter. But there's so much smoke about Detroit and Ottawa. Ottawa, to get Alex DeBrincat, gave up a first, a second, and a third. So they don't want to give him away. They want something in return. You get down the wormhole, you're reading blogs, message boards, tweets, and you're trying to sift through what reality might be. It feels, Gator, like the price is one of Detroit's first-round picks, one of Detroit's second-round picks, and a player or a prospect. And because Ottawa wants some of their draft capital back that they lost in giving up to get DeBrincat in the first place. Okay, so starting with that, one of Detroit's first-round picks, there's a big difference between 9 and 17. Like, which one? And that is something that has to be determined. The second-round picks don't matter, whether it's 40, 42, 43, 41, 42, or 43, I think is what they pick. I mean, Ottawa is going to want the highest one, and if I'm Detroit, I'm like, sure, fine, whatever. Then the question is, who's the player? Who's the player? Is the player a prospect? Is the player Zadina? Who's the player?
Well, that's a question. Is it Berggren, or I've heard his name bandied about. I'm open to trading for DeBrincat. I'm not sure I love the idea of trading for him, but it does depend on what you're giving up for sure. Do I want the Red Wings to give up the 9th pick? No. If they had to give up 17 and one of the second-round picks to get him, along with a prospect, I'm open to that. We'll see who the prospect is.
I was reading some stuff out of Ottawa that Ottawa wants to get back in the top half of the first round. Well, that's 9, and it's not 17.
Yeah.
17 is close.
There's a reason people want to get into the top half of the first round is because this draft looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want the Red Wings to give it away for a player that had a couple of great seasons a couple seasons ago. Had a good season this past year, but he's not a two-way player. He's diminutive in stature, but he does put the puck in it. You can't argue with that. I mean, he's scored 40-goal seasons with Chicago and played reasonably well last year as well. But I look towards, I want to get that superstar player. And is DeBrincat, he's not a superstar player. Is my best chance of landing a superstar player trying to make a trade in the draft to move up. And if I'm going to move up, I'm going to need number 9 to move up. If you can get into the top 5, whether it's for the Russian player Makchev or you go and you look at one of the U.S. developmental players. They've got a trio of guys that were outstanding, whether it's Leonard or Smith or Oliver Moore. There's the Swedish player, Leo Carlson, that's highly regarded. There's a lot of players there, man, and I'm a big Fantilli guy from Michigan, but looks like the number 1 and 2 pick are pretty ironed out. These guys are going first and second with Bedard and Fantilli, and if I can't get Fantilli, okay, I'm going to try to improve my draft standing and get one of these other guys, because you can't, who knows what's going to happen by the time it gets to 9. You may have all these guys on your board and they're all gone. But you do have the ability to move because you have all this draft capital. I mean, I would imagine if you had the 9th pick overall and you give up one of your second-round picks, maybe even 2 of your second-round picks, that you can move up a few spots.
Yeah, so you don't want to give up 9, and I'm sure Ottawa wants 9.
Yeah.
Do you think Ottawa, what we got to remember is in 2024, Detroit has 2 first-rounders. They have their own, and they have the one from Boston that came in the Bertuzzi trade that's top 10 protected. So it would you go 17 and one of the first-rounders next year?
No.
Okay.
For DeBrincat, I wouldn't.
I see. I would, so I could hang on to 9. Now, because the choices are, it's not what you want to do. It's what if they demand this, and if they demand this, if this is the only way to get it done, I'm doing it. But we'll have more because there's, Yzerman's a big line in the sand kind of guy, according to some insiders.